Okay, thanks everyone for joining us for our second session of Adult 101 Life Skills. This week we'll be covering Money Savvy with Safe Credit Union. For those of you who were able to join us last week, thank you so much. If you were unable to join us, if you go to saclibrary.org/adult101, you can view the recording from last week and register for any upcoming sessions. So this session is going to be recorded. We will be taking attendance. For those of you who did mark that you would like to receive a digital certificate of completion. So if you haven't already, go ahead and put your first name and last initial in the chat if it is not already your Zoom name, so Monica can go ahead and grab that for you. So I have two colleagues with me here today, Ricardo and Monica, and they will be helping with any technical needs and monitoring the chat if you have questions. But let's go ahead and dive into our content. Today we are going to be covering basic financial literacy. So it's called Money Savvy. It's really for you to go out into the world and be ready to manage your own financial wellness. Jonathan Downs is here from Safe Credit Union. For the next hour, he will be doing a presentation for you. And then at the end, if you can stick around for just a moment, we'll wrap up and I'll be putting a survey link in the chat. And as Monica just mentioned, we do have a live captioner with us today if you need that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jonathan now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. All right, and then we will go ahead and just jump on in just so that we can be respectful of everyone's time. Please feel free to chat in any questions as they come up. I like to try and address them directly in the moment so that nothing gets forgotten or missed. But today we'll take a look at, Money Savvy. Like Crystal said, we're going to talk about some budgeting basics, as well as opening and maintaining a checking and a savings account. And then one of my favorite topics is debt impact on your financial health. And so before we start covering too much content, I like to throw some stats out there to start. And so I got some stats here from Financial Health Network's, it's 2020's trend reports. So full disclosure, they have changed a little bit in 2021, so I'll get you those updated percentages. But first off, 17% of America's population is financially vulnerable, meaning they are not even making ends meet to pay all the bills that they're getting. And while 17% doesn't seem like a huge percentage, that's 42 million people, which to me is just an astronomical number, even though it's a small percentage. Our next stat here, 50% are financially coping, meaning maybe they're just able to make ends meet. They could probably save a little bit, but they probably don't have a budget. They don't really know where all their finances are going. And as you can see, that's 125 million people. And, we'll discuss the importance of a budget. I'll give you some basic strategies, as well in a little bit in order to track and maintain your budget. And then this last stat, 33% of the population, or 84 million people, are financially healthy. So what this means is, these people have a budget, they know how much they're spending, they know how much is coming in, and they have some form of savings plan. And these numbers, like I said, they did update a little bit from 2020 to 2021. The financially vulnerable category went from 17% to 14%. Financially coping went from 50 to 51, and financially healthy went from 33 to 35. So trending in the right direction. Would still like to see those numbers be even higher towards the financially healthy side. So hopefully, we can take away some good information today so that we fall into that category. And the best advice I have for you with your finances and your budget are the choices you make today affect your tomorrow. And as somebody who grew up, who didn't have this information readily available, when I was 18, 20, 25, I cannot stress how true this is. Literally every choice I made back then affects where I am today. And some of them I'm even still paying for today. So take a minute and just literally think about choices you make today with your finances affect your tomorrow. And so when it comes to budgeting, one of the myths that I tend to hear is I'm too broke to start a budget. And I can assure you, you're never too broke to start a budget. And you may feel like you're broke because you don't have a budget, because you don't know what money's coming in, where your money's going. And oftentimes, a lot of people will say, well, if I got that promotion, or if I got this new job or this raise, I would be so much more better off. That tends not to be true, because I like to quote, a financially savvy guru, Mr. Biggie Smalls, said, "More money, more problems," right? And so literally, the more money we have, the more money we're going to spend. So if we don't have a budget, it doesn't matter if we get that promotion, if we get that new job. We're probably not even going to see that money, because we don't know what's coming in. We don't know where it's going. So the benefits of budgeting, literally, if I can boil it down to what budgeting is at its basics, it's understanding what do you have coming in and what do you have going out. So what is your income? What are your bills? And then what are things that are your extras? And the benefits of budgeting aren't, so I should say budgeting is not meant to be a tool to tell you, I can't spend money. I can't do this with my money. If anything, budgeting enables you to do those things more responsibly, so that you can still spend your money and do these things that you enjoy, but you're planning for it, so that it's not just an unexpected expense, or it hits your bank account so bad that maybe you're overdrawn. Budgeting helps prevent that, as well as saving for future items, starting to save for a house, for example, or if you want to move out of your parents' place and rent an apartment, or maybe you want to backpack through Europe or something. Budgeting helps you plan for and account for all of these expenses. And so how do you start a budget? The best way that I can tell you to start a budget is to grab a statement, whether you print it off, or you take a look at it online, and grab some form of highlighter. Grab 3 different colors. So printing it off tends to work a little bit better. Print out your statement and go through and highlight one color with what is your income. So what do you have coming in? All sources of income. Let's say green for income. You then take a second color, I'm just going to say yellow, and highlight all of your bills. So what are things you have to pay each month? Rent, student loans, credit card, anything like that you have to pay every month. Highlight in that next color. And then with the third color, you go through and you highlight all of the extras. Anytime you went to Starbucks or Dutch Bros or went to the movies, and just go through and just see how much is on there. And you're going to find you're going to have a lot of extras on there. And so what that's showing is areas where you could possibly save some money or plan for it, so that it's not as big an instant hit on your budget. And when it comes to actually sitting down and building your budget, after you've done the highlighter method, I recommend sitting down and thinking about what are your financial goals. And you're going to want to set some short-term, some midterm, and some long-term goals, couple of each. And duration is relative. Short-term for you could be 1 week, could be 1 month. Here I have an example of 6 months. Midterm, on this example is 1 to 3 years, long-term 4+ years. But again, your short, mid, long-term is totally relative to you. Is it 1 week? Is it 1 month? Is your midterm 3 months? Maybe your long-term is 1 year out. What you're going to find is goals help keep you grounded with your budget. So once you've gone through and you've highlighted your income, you've highlighted your expenses, and then you've highlighted your extras, now you can start to plan for what extras can I trim out so that I can meet my financial goals. What you'll notice, and I encourage you to set quite a few short-term ones of some varying lengths, is you start to hit your goals, you're going to become hungrier and hungrier to hit more and more goals. So you are going to be saving more and more money each paycheck, each month, whatever that duration is that you define. You will want to save more, instead of always going out and spending $8-9 at Starbucks every day. And some advice I have, if you are a person that you can't live without Starbucks, that is okay. I'm only using it as an example, but if it's something that you know you need, just build it in your budget so that you know where that money's going and you can account for the rest of your money. And so with, setting your goals and, saving for these goals, encourage everybody, if you haven't done so already, to open a checking account and a savings account. It is so beneficial to have each of these accounts. And, being that you are younger in age, there are plenty of options out there that are free, very little, most of them no cost to you whatsoever. And the benefits to having them are going to be, you can establish a banking history and a relationship with a financial institution. What this also does, it gives you access to budgeting tools. A lot of these institutions now on their apps or their online banking have access to budgeting tools to where you can track, where, categories like, are you eating out a lot? Are you going to movies a lot? You are able to see what category all of your money is going into. And that will allow you to continue to build on your budget. So you can plan for these expenses so that they aren't so unexpected. And, you have with your online banking and your mobile banking, you literally can log in at any time and keep track of every single thing that you have going in and coming out of your account. I log in personally probably 3-4 times a day just to keep track of my expenses. And still sometimes there's an occasional item that pops up there that I wasn't expecting. But, it's been built into my budget. So long-term, I've expected it, just didn't expect it to clear maybe that day. And then this next one is, it ties into what I was saying with mobile and online banking. You can balance and check your account. You have full control of your money, literally from anywhere. You log in on your phone. You can do the finger ID, so you don't even have to type in a password. And you can check your balances. You can transfer, funds around. You can, some instances even open new accounts, rename accounts, so if you want to name it like Europe vacation or something, when you put money in there, you will be able to, allocate it for that expense. And then, coming down to, you've heard me say it quite a few times already, you can manage your money from anywhere. The mobile apps are so amazing, literally seconds to log in, and you can check exactly what your balance is. And you can even add secondary and tertiary forms of, different apps to log in to keep track of your finances and your budget. One of them, like one of the gold standards, it's free app to use, is Mint. You can log into Mint and it can track, if you have accounts at multiple institutions, you can log into Mint and you can view them all just logged into Mint. And then it'll also help keep you honest with your budget and keep you on track with your budget. So I encourage you, if you are somebody that needs that extra little help, do some research, find some of these apps that are out there. Another app, I know it's not free, but YNAB, you need a budget, if you just need that extra layer of help to keep you budgeting, that is also an option as well. And so when it comes to building your budget and, you've opened your accounts, you've got your checking, you've got your savings, you're allocating your money aside, every week, every couple of weeks, every month, depending on, what your pay cycle is. The best advice I have for you for your goals that you're saving for is don't just save, but grow your money. And so what we mean by that is, look at other avenues that you can put your money into that could earn you more interest. For example, there's like money market accounts and certificates. When you get to a certain point where you meet the balances to where you're not going to maintain any fees on these accounts, and you're okay locking this money up, like the European vacation, for example. Let's say you're not going to go for 3 years, but you want to lock the money up. You want to earn a little more interest on it than, whatever the standard savings rate is. If you throw it in a certificate, you're agreeing to keep the money in this account for whatever duration you set. And I've seen terms from 3 months to 72 months or 6 years. And you literally can put it in there. They usually have minimum balances to open, but then there's no fees associated. and you earn interest each month more than you would get in your standard savings account. And so some people might be thinking, well, I don't have a ton of money every month to save. And I can promise you the only wrong amount is zero. Every little bit does make a difference. And so to show you some figures here, if you put away $25 twice a month, you will have saved $600 in 1 year. And while that doesn't seem like a ton of money, that's only $25, every paycheck essentially. And that's $600 at the end of the year that you probably, may not have currently or weren't expecting to have, at the end of that year. So, we can take a look at some of the other amounts here. If you can do $100 twice a month, that's $2,400 a year. And if, just to throw another one out there, if you can do 200 twice a month, that's $4,800 a year. And so every little bit makes a difference. And this is where your goals are so crucial, because what your goals do is your goals are going to help keep you grounded and make you want to save these amounts. So when you sit down and you talk about, wanting to go on vacation, or, wanting to move out, get your own apartment eventually, taking a look at some of these numbers are, what you would need to save to reach that goal, because, vacations they're not cheap. You got airfare, you got hotel, food, and moving out typically requires you to have, usually like first and last month's rent, as well as possibly a security deposit. Let's see, and I do see a question regarding money market accounts compared to traditional savings accounts. So to answer that question for you, a money market account encourages you to have a higher balance. So if you don't meet the minimum, there is typically a monthly maintenance fee on it. But when you meet that minimum and you maintain that higher balance, it pays you a better interest rate, or like we call it, a dividend rate. So it's going to depend on what your balances are. And I encourage you to have that discussion with your institution so that you can find out what is their minimum requirement, what is their fee if you don't meet it, and what is their interest or dividend payout on it for maintaining that higher balance. So I hope that was able to answer your question. And so, now that we're done with taking a look at savings, anytime, taking a look at what savings can do for you, I want to discuss how we're paying for our items. And we got two options here. We either got a credit card or a debit card. Credit card is, somebody's giving you a line of credit. You're able to swipe your card, and that, you got to pay it back plus interest if you don't pay it off within 30 days. Debit card is linked right with your checking account. You swipe your debit card, it takes the funds right out of your checking account. As long as you don't go overdrawn, there's no fees or anything there for it. I do want to talk about, there is a responsible way to use a credit card, and there's an irresponsible way to use a credit card. If you are, just going out and you're gonna, go on a shopping spree, for an example, you probably do not want to use a credit card, because you're going to rack up a fairly high balance, and then you're going to be paying interest on that for however long it takes you to pay it off. And I got some examples coming up in a little bit that I can show you on, based on what you charge, what the interest rate is, how long it takes you to pay it off, how much you pay in interest. The way you want to use your credit card is for things that you would use your debit card for in the first place. Basic essentials, gas, groceries, things that you plan to pay cash for. You use your credit card, you let it report a little bit of a balance. You want it to report 30% or under. And the reason you want to do that is because the prime kind of range there is 30% less for where it helps your credit card, or where it helps your credit score the best. So if you use your credit card, and you keep it under 30% and you pay it off right away, as long as it's paid off within the first 30 days of that purchase, you shouldn't pay interest on it. It's after that 30 days, you are going to start to accrue interest. So the benefit of using your credit card in that way is, maybe you have a card that has cash rewards or has travel rewards on it. You can use these cards and get rewarded for these purchases that you were going to pay your debit card with, that you were going to pay with your debit card anyways. You're not paying any interest on it. And then, again, you're getting rewards, some cash back, or, maybe you're accumulating travel points towards that European vacation, like we were talking about. And then I do see question, what age would you say is best for a credit card? You have to be at least 18, for a credit card. I can tell you, depending on, any other credit you have, you may have a hard time getting an unsecured card, which means you may have to put up some of your own money for a credit card in that dollar amount. As long as you're over 18, there is no wrong age to start building credit. You just want to make sure you're building it responsibly. Hope that was able to answer. I just got a couple questions in there. Hopefully you're able to address those with that section. So when we're building our budget, we want to make sure that we are building in cash for everything. Even though we're paying it with, if we are going to pay with a credit card and pay it right off, we want to make sure, it's part of our normal cash flow and it's accounted for. And so when it comes to starting your budget, what I can tell you is start simple. Very, very basic. Start first with what do you have coming in? What do you have going out? What are your extras? Then create small goals to save for. Like I said, the more goals you create, and as you continue to meet those goals, you are going to find yourself hungrier and hungrier to keep meeting those goals. And you will find yourself being a stricter and stricter with your money, to where it's not just, where did all my money go? It's the end of the month, or I'm about to get paid and my account is zero. I see a question, do we have to pay off a debit card? You do not have to pay off a debit card. When you use your debit card, it pulls the funds directly from your checking account. So it pays it instantly there. You just want to make sure, you aren't overdrawing. Let's see, additional questions. Do I still need to pay interest on my credit card if I pay it off the next day? If you're paying it off the next day, you should not accrue any interest on it. Again, you got 30 days before you would start accruing, any interest on those purchases. And so, to come back to the budget, it's create those small goals and define what gives you joy with your money. Because budgeting isn't meant to be a bad word, like I was saying earlier, to where it restricts you from doing things with your money. It's supposed to give you more power to do things with your money so that you're planning for it. So maybe instead of using the word budgeting, if you associate that, like maybe some bad term, change it up for planning. Plan what gives you joy, what, income, what expenses, what goals do you want to save for, and that will help you stay true to your budget or your plan, depending on, how you want to phrase it, but it helps keep you true to what you set. I see another question. If you have a shared credit card with someone, person A is paying off their side of the purchase, person B doesn't pay their side, does person B's irresponsibleness affect person A? If you are joint on a credit card, there really is no like, this person spent this much, this person spent this much, they've paid it off, they haven't. It's really just, what is your balance, or what is your limit? What is your balance? Have your payments been made on time? So each person is responsible jointly for it. So both people will have to make sure that they're using it responsibly. We'll have to make sure that they are, paying it off, keeping it below the 30%, ideally paying it off every month so that you aren't paying any interest on it at all. And what are shared credit cards for? Shared credit cards are, for, significant other, spouses typically. Sometimes you can go on them with parents, to start building credit, but really it's for, people with joint expenses, to track them together. Like if you, paying, your monthly bills, your utilities, rent, you typically can't do on there, but like utilities, groceries, things like that. If you have a joint card, let's say I go shopping one week, but my wife goes shopping the next week. If we have a joint card, either one of us could use it and still reap those rewards, the cash back there. And then regarding, coming back to the budget again, in addition to defining joy with your money, there's an envelope system. And, Crystal was kind enough to send it out. And if you haven't received it, it should be, coming in the mail. But this is literally, you are allocating funds for each item in your budget and you're putting them in an envelope. So let's say you have rent. Let's say you have groceries. Let's say you have utilities, you have car payment, you have car insurance. You basically have an envelope for each one of these. You put money away in it, when you get paid. The goal is at the end of the month, in each of these envelopes, you will have only used what you've put in there. You're not, robbing Peter to pay Paul, where you're pulling money, from another envelope to cover, this, previous envelope. And that's where budgeting, it takes some planning, it takes some time. If I can give you any advice when it comes to building a budget, it's going to take you probably about a solid 4 to 6 months to really get a true handle on building and maintaining your budget. It is something, it does take trial and error. I wish I could say, hey, it's perfect right out of the get-go. Here's what you got to do and you're golden. Everybody's budget is different. Everybody has different expenses. No two people are the same. Your budget is as individualized as you are. And so it takes time to hone that in. And so, practice grace, practice forgiveness. It's going to take a little bit of time to build. There will be some mistakes. So I wish I, again, could tell you it was perfect, right out of the get-go, but please, make sure you're taking time, you're allowing yourself to make mistakes. It is something that's new for most of us. Allow it to be new. So you got a question. If I wanted to start a business, how much should I save each month? That's a great question. I wish I could give you a set dollar amount. It really is going to depend on the business itself. In addition to sitting down and mapping out your personal expenses, you're going to have to map out projected expenses for your business. So, if you're, in the business of, let's say you're making something to sell on Etsy, right? You have to gauge how much materials are you going to be spending each month? How much, if you're trying to factor in things like utilities and things like that for any overhead costs, how much do you project that to be? And so it's going to take a little bit of time, especially if you're just starting out with a business. You could have a very slow month 1, and then business booms month 2. So again, same advice, where allow it to be new. Understand it's going to take time to really get the budgeting down, both for you and your business. So allow it to be new. Practice some grace and forgiveness with yourself, and you'll get there. I promise. Let's see. So what you're saying, it is a balancing using your money wisely. Yes, it is a balancing act to use your money wisely. It takes time, to figure it out. And you literally have to sit down and, it starts with, what do you have coming in? What do you have going out? And then what do you have that are extras? What do you want to save for? And what are some things that you want to just be able to do with your money in the moment? Like some friends give you a call, like, hey, we're going to go out to the movies. You don't want to log in and look at your account and be like, I'm overdrawn. I don't know how this happened. I can't go out. Or even worse, go out and further overdraw your account. You want to be able to build the stuff into your budget so that when it happens, you aren't having to, say no, or further, further go into debt for an expense that could have been planned for. And so you've heard me talk about, budgeting and using your credit cards for, only your everyday expenses that you would be using cash for. And so what if you are an avid credit card user? Well, and I can tell you this because this was me when I was younger, because I didn't have these awesome classes like this. Best advice, leave your credit card at home. If you go out shopping and you just, you have that uncontrollable urge to just spend, leave your credit card at home. Delete your credit card, from your mobile wallet, from, any online shopping, Amazon, for example, as well. Literally, I actually had to do this one time, no joke. I had to take my credit cards, I put them in a Ziploc bag, I threw them in the freezer, and I didn't see them for like a year. Just so I could get my, my budgeting under control, so that I could get, my spending under control. Cause I grew up thinking credit is just credit. You can use it and just pay it back whenever. But, one of the things you have to do with your credit card, like this third bullet point says, is calculate the cost, first calculate your budget. And let's see, question, what are the 4 highlighting points on a statement? So there were 3 highlighting points on a statement. Your first one, you go through and you highlight all of your income. So do 1 color for income. You go through, you do a second color for true expenses, utilities, rent, groceries, car payment, things you have to pay every month. And then you do a third color for anything that's extras. Any, time you go out to Starbucks, you go out to the movies, anything like that, go through, highlight them a third color for extras. What you'll find is you have a lot of extras on there, and then you can start to go through and decide, okay, if I go to Starbucks 5 days a week and it's, $8 a cup to go to Starbucks, it's $40 a week I'm spending, now you're spending $160, a month at Starbucks. Do you want to spend $160 a month at Starbucks, or do you want to put that money aside for a vacation or, to move out someday? So, this is where sitting down and defining what are your goals, what brings you joy, and what can you do with that money that you are spending on those extras? So let's see. What other questions do we have? If you don't have a credit card, should you have one or no? That is going to be all personal preference. It's going to depend on if you can control your spending and use it responsibly. Can you use it just for the necessities that you need and then pay it off each month? Keep it below a 30% balance. Keep it so you're not paying interest on it. If that's the case, then I would say, yes, having a credit card is worth it because you can earn, rewards for those purchases that you were going to make cash for and not earn any rewards on anyways. Like some credit cards, for example, have like 5% cash back on it. So, if you're going to go, spend, let's say in a year you spend, just make some nice round figures, $1,000 on groceries, and you're going to get 5% back on that. That's $50 back that you got just for using your credit card and paying it off right away. So if you can use it responsibly, I would recommend having one. If you're planning to rent a car, you're going to want to have a credit card so that it doesn't tie up so much of your funds that you have in your checking account using a debit card for a deposit, for example. And then let's see, how can you take advantage of the pros of a credit card, especially while in college? Literally use it for very, very small purchases. Use it to fill up with a tank of gas. Keep it, again, under 30% of your limit. As soon as it reports that balance, pay it off right away, because it's going to have to report a balance and show that you're making that payment for it to affect your score. So, if you're just starting out, if you're in college, especially with, limited income coming in, use it for as little as you can, literally just enough to report a purchase, pay it off so you don't pay interest, and then you get that positive payment history and showing that responsible credit card usage as well. Let's see. How would you classify unexpected finances? Emergency room, unanticipated repairs. Yes. So that is one when you're building your budget. I would recommend allocating funds aside strictly for an emergency savings, because you never know when these things are going to come up. And I can tell you personally, I just had to take my wife to the ER like a week and a half ago, and totally unexpected. And so having an emergency savings set aside that's just for emergencies on top of anything else you were saving for is going to be huge. So I just recommend just planning for it. And it's, you can never plan for how much it's going to cost, obviously. So just, any little bit that you can help put aside for in the event that emergency comes up, it's going to help drastically. So you're not having to dip into, other areas that you were saving for, or if you have to, you're not going to have to dip in quite as much. Let's see. All right, awesome. So I think that brings us all up to date on any of the questions. So again, if you are an avid card user, please do whatever you have to so that you don't use your card. Let's leave your cards at home. You do what I did and throw it in the freezer for a year, and calculate the cost versus your budget. Is it something that, if you're going to be paying for it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how much, you charged up, you're going to pay a lot more over time. And so maybe this is something that you build into your budget and you save for. Like if you want to go get like a nice, like purse or something, for example. I know those are pricey, so I'm just tossing that out there as an example. Rather than use a credit card, if you set a little aside each month, depending on the purse you're getting, like I was showing you earlier with that graph on, $25, twice a month will save you $600. Maybe that buys buys your purse, and then you could use your card, but pay it off right away. So you get those rewards, you get those benefits, but you're not paying interest on it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And so, let's talk about, when it comes to budgeting, there are necessities and then there are luxuries, right? And oftentimes the two can get mixed up pretty good. Let's see, I do see a question. Are there any apps that can help you track or categorize your budgets, as in take or add money? Yes, there are. Mint is a really good one out there. It is free, so it helps track kind of what categories you're spending your money in. Actually, most of your financial institutions nowadays even have a similar tool in their online banking. The mobile apps usually pretty limiting, so you might not see the budgeting tool on the mobile apps, but I encourage you to log in, truly online to your financial institution's website, and they will be able to kind of track your spending. Here are categories where you're spending X percent of your money's on. But coming back to necessities versus luxuries, I think we could all agree that we need a car, right? Like if you're not one for public transportation, you're going to need a car to get around. So definitely car goes in the necessities list. And then another necessity is going to be, we all need some form of dwelling, whether it's an apartment, a townhome, a condo, a detached home. We do need a roof over our head, a place to sleep and eat and, work if you work from home. This is another necessity. Now, do we need the luxury side of these? So instead of a car, do you need to go buy a classic Ferrari? As cool as it would be to say you have a classic Ferrari, you do not need a classic Ferrari just to drive around town. So this is definitely an extreme example of a luxury. And while we need a house, we probably do not need the house from Downton Abbey. So again, this is going to be, another luxury. And this is where literally sitting down, taking a look at your finances and building your budget. What can I afford each month? What is a realistic car payment I can afford? What is a realistic rent or housing payment I can afford? So you need to sit down. And again, everybody's budget's going to be different. Everybody makes different amounts. Everybody has different bills. So this is where sitting down and mapping out, as much of your expenses as you can is going to help determine what of these items you can afford. And so, let's talk about the impact of debt over time. You heard me mention it earlier. If you're paying for things for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you end up paying a lot more in interest than the original item was, even itself. So that's why making minimum payments, it isn't a wise decision for, how you're going to pay off your credit card debt. You are going to want to pay it off as quick as you can. Again, keeping it under 30% is your prime utilization rate. And if you did rack up debt, there's two ways to pay it off. There's the Snowball Method and the Avalanche Method. Both very similar. The Snowball Method is where, if your goal is to pay off your debt, you're going to make all your minimum payments on all of your debts, and you're going to take your smallest balance debt, and you're going to throw all of your extra funds at that. When that's paid off, you're going to take everything that was going to this debt, you're going to move up to your next smallest debt. And you keep doing that all the way up. So, it snowballs. You start small and it just starts to, roll and get bigger. The Avalanche Method is very similar, but works in reverse. You're going to make your minimum payments and everything, but you allocate all of your extra money goes to your highest balance or your highest interest rate debt. Once that's paid off, you take everything that's going here and move down to the next one, so on and so forth. There is no right or wrong way to tackle your debt. You just need to sit down and see which avenue is going to be best for you based on your personal budget. And so why do you need to manage your debt? Well, like I told you, it's going to cost you more over time. And I've got some examples coming up in a little bit to show you how much interest you're going to pay. But the longer you carry the debt, the more you're going to pay before you even start to pay off what it was you originally went into debt for. In this one, it can negatively impact your score. When it comes to your credit score, I like to call it the 30 for 30. 30% of your credit score consists of your credit card debt. They call it your revolving debt. And so and you've heard me say you want to keep it under 30%, because that's where it works for you best. It shows you use it responsibly. Anything over 30%, it lowers your score. So what you'll find, if you are somebody that has, credit card debt that's beyond 30%, the fastest way to increase your score is to pay that down and get it below 30%. The converse is also true. The fastest way to lower your score, well, second fastest way, I should say, is to take your debt over 30%. The fastest way to lower your score is if you are making late payments, which if you've racked up debt, you could possibly, be making some late payments. Late payments consist of 35% of your credit score. So those two items right there are 65% of your score. So please make sure you are keeping your debt minimum, you are keeping it under 30% utilization, and you are making all of your payments on time. And it could, it causes unnecessary stress. If you're in debt and you are constantly stressed about where's the money going to come for these bills. I have $10,000 in credit card debt. 3 out of 4 people stress, and I feel like that one person that doesn't is lying about it. And they actually say that financial stress is the #1 stress in the workplace. And so if you're financially stressed, you're carrying that to work, which is affecting your productivity. Stress, as we all know, mentally, it also then affects us physically, which affects our health. And so not only do you end up being stressed, but you can actually end up just being sick because you are so stressed over it. So please manage your debt, 30 for 30. You want to keep your credit utilization under 30%. That's 30% of your credit score. 35% of your score is on-time payments. So you don't want any late payments, at all on your credit report. So now let's talk about what is debt really costing you. So this is an example of carrying some credit card debt, based on, balance and interest rate. So we're going to say credit card rate is at 18%, which is a pretty decent rate, especially with, Feds raising the rate lately. We're going to see some higher rates out there. Minimum payment is 2% of the balance. And so let's say I go out and I want to buy a pair of shoes and I get a good deal. I buy a pair of shoes for $30. Let's say it takes me 3 months to pay that off at 18% interest rate. I will have paid in that 3 months, 69 cents in interest. And okay, I'll admit 69 cents in interest does not seem like a lot of money, but when's the last time that you found a pair of shoes for $30? So let's instead say we're going to go out and buy 2 pairs of shoes. I got the sneakerhead itch. I'm going to go buy 2 pairs of shoes. I'm going to buy some nicer shoes this time. I'm going to spend $300 in shoes. It will take me making minimum payments 2 years to pay that off. At 18%, 2% of the balance for the minimum payments. The interest I will have paid in that time is $59.35. So I will have paid $60 in interest, just in interest. That is 2 pairs of the original shoes that I bought, just in interest. But if I'm going to go out on a shopping spree, I'm probably not going to just spend $300. I'm probably going to go out on a shopping spree and spend something along the lines of like $1,000. Like I need a new wardrobe. It's getting to be summertime, and what, the COVID-19 pounds hit me hard. So I'm going to go out and have to get some all new clothes. And so making the minimum payment on that, it's going to take me 151 months to pay it off. That's like 13 years to pay off $1,000 balance. The interest I will have paid in that time at 18% for 13 years is $1,396.76. That is almost 1.5 times the original balance that I took just to go out and buy these items. And so, and this is huge. And, $1,000, it seems like a lot, but when it comes to credit card debt, it's real easy to accumulate $1,000 in credit card debt. And so this is where, please build these items into your budget, save your cash. And, when you save the cash, then yes, maybe use your card, if you have a credit card, to earn some rewards, but pay it off right away. And yes, I do see the question, could you make $250 payments, pay it off in 2 months? Would you have less interest? Absolutely. Interest is a monthly thing that you accrue. So the sooner you pay it off, the less interest you pay. These are just examples of if you went out and used your card and you were just making the minimum payments, how much you would pay in interest and how long it would take you to pay it off. But yes, if you have the funds available for it and you use your card and you pay it off sooner, that just means that you have less items, you have less interest that you're going to pay over time. And so, taking a look at these items here, as you can see, it makes a world of difference, interest, and it takes forever to pay some items off if you're just making the minimum payments. But let's take a look at some debt breakdown stats here. So Gen Xers that use their credit cards have an average of $8,000 in credit card debt. And you saw the example I had on the previous slide was $1,000. Making the minimum payments takes you 151 months to pay it off. This, I don't even think I got time to do the calculations, but it will take you quite a long time at minimum payments. More importantly, it will be a lot of interest paid. Gen Xers typical auto loans balance is $21,570. That's actually not a bad amount, but it is still, a monthly debt breakdown that you are going to have to plan for. Mortgage loans for Gen Xers, the average is $238,344, with millennials averaging $224,500. This seems like a lot of money. If we've looked at house prices in California nowadays, this really is going to be able to get you too much. But mortgage loans, auto loans, these are, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, these are normal debt items that we expect to see. These are debt items that we want to see, we want to have. We want to have a car, we want to have a house, and we want to build these things into our budget so that we can plan accordingly for them. Lastly, well, not lastly, but next we got personal loans. Baby boomers have an average of $19,000 in personal loan debt, while Gen Zers have an average of $4,000 in personal debt. So this is quite a huge difference. Personal loans definitely are not as common as they used to be, back for baby boomers. And that's a good thing, because personal loans, unlike your auto loans and your mortgage loans, which have, secured debt, meaning you have a car against it, you have a house against it. Personal loans and credit cards, they carry higher interest rates. So you're going to pay more over time. So you want to make sure that you're budgeting for these items, you're saving for these items, so you aren't taking out a personal loan to where you're paying 8, 9, 10%, interest on these. You literally are paying cash, earning some rewards if you put them on a card and pay them off right away. But definitely, you can steer clear of personal loans, please do. Where they are beneficial is debt consolidation. If you are somebody that has a lot of credit card debt, personal loans will give you a lower interest rate than your credit card debt will, and it will free up that utilization as well to help increase your score to go along with that. Lastly on there, student loans. Gen Xers have almost $40,000 in student loan debt. That is just astronomical. And that's just a 4-year, talk about a bachelor's degree. That's not even talking about, if you go on for your master's, or your doctorate or anything, obviously that number is only going to balloon, but almost $40,000 in student loan debt. But this is a healthy debt. When I say healthy debt, what are healthy debt items? Well, these are things, like your mortgage. You want to strive to have a house one day. If you open your own business, like we were talking about earlier, business loans, student loans, auto loans. These are items that you want, we expect to see on there. You have student loans because you wanted to go, get this degree that's going to give you this good paying job. That's going to allow you to, start a business or own a home. It's going to allow you to buy a car. Most of us don't have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 sitting around to where we can just pay cash for a mortgage, or, pay cash for, I think the average car nowadays is like $46,000. So, most of us don't want to just, if we have that much, we don't want to drain our savings for it. So these are healthy debt items that we expect to see on everyone's credit report. And so unhealthy debt items are excessive debt, to the point where your debt, it outpaces your payments. You have more debt than you can pay for. And this is going to affect your mental health. You heard me mention earlier, it's 3 out of 4 people stress about finances. And like I said, I think that one person that said they don't is probably lying. But, it's stress, which then affects you, it affects you emotionally, it affects you physically as well. So, unhealthy debt, really, it's your excessive debt, it's your personal loans, it's your credit cards. So please use those items responsibly. Again, keeping them under 30% and paying them off every month. And so, how does debt affect your credit? And, there's 2 sides of this. When you are going to, apply for new credit, they're going to take a look at, it's called your DTI, your debt to income ratio. What do you have in debt on your credit report? What do you have coming in? And then they establish a percentage to it. Typically with everything on your credit, and your income, you want to be about 50% or less. So, 50% of your gross income. So before taxes, 50% of that goes towards items on your credit report. Other items, things like groceries and utilities, those items that don't go on your credit report, that's what the other 50% is for. Paying those items, paying your savings account, saving for your goals. The other side of it is your balances, particularly pertaining to your credit card balances. And like I said earlier, the 30 for 30, 30% of your credit score is your revolving debt or your credit cards. That is going to take, you want to keep that at 30% or less to help your score the most, to show you can use it, you use credit cards responsibly, and that you can pay it off every month, or, come close to paying it off every month. And, biggest bonus for you with that is you're not paying interest on it. And so what I want to, get into now is building consistency. It starts with you. So literally we need to sit down, and this is where the highlighter method is going to come in handy. Knowing how much, for this one, you would have to sit down and calculate, and they have online calculators for it as well. If you're carrying debt, how much is it really costing you? How much is that credit card debt costing you? And so you can sit down, you can plug that in, with making minimum payments. I encourage you, please don't just make minimum payments. Anything extra you can pay helps pay down the principal, which means you pay less interest on it. And know the role that you want it to play in your life, it being your finances. What do you want to do with your money? What gives you joy? What do you want to save for? What are your short, mid, and long-term goals? And this is, sitting down and mapping these out. Like I said earlier, the more you meet these goals, the hungrier you're going to get for them, the more you're going to save for these goals. The quicker you'll obtain them even. So please sit down, do the highlighter method like we've talked about, and then, you can map out what do you want to do and allocate your extra money for. Use the best strategy for you. For example, when it comes to paying down debt, is the Snowball Method the best, or is the Avalanche Method the best? And that's where just mapping out what financial obligations do you have? What can you afford? And where do you want to allocate that money? Maybe it'll be better paying off the smaller debt first, because, you can see that that's gone, it's off your report quicker, and work your way up. Maybe you're okay waiting a little longer and paying off the higher, balance debt, but that's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. And save so you can prevent debt. If you want these things, like a purse, for example, I was talking about earlier, if you want to get this purse and you know how much it is, build it into your budget, so that you can save for it, so that you aren't racking up your credit card debt for it. You can literally save the money and then use your credit card to buy it, and then turn around and pay it right off, but earn those rewards on it. So, and again, this comes down to mapping out, what are your goals? What do you like to do for fun with your money? This is what's going to prevent you from incurring debt. but you're going to be able to save and you're going to be able to pay for these items, in cash, or again, with your credit card, pay it right off so you earn those rewards. Next bit of advice I have is find way to decrease expenses. This is, that highlighter method we were talking about. What do you have, that you're spending on every month that you can literally cut out or diminish down? Maybe you're Starbucks 5 days a week and you want to save some money, but you love Starbucks. Maybe you go 2 days a week instead of 5, or just finding ways to decrease expenses. And the highlighter method is going to be the best way to do that. So you can see exactly where all your money is going to, what are all these extras, and how much am I spending on it? And then decide what can I trim out or totally eliminate. And then, if you are having trouble making your payments, reach out to your financial institutions. There are different payment arrangements that are out there. Some loans offer you the ability to move a payment, skip one payment now and move it to, the end of the loan, for example. But, there's certain things that go into it that you need to discuss with your institution. These next two I'll kind of speak to in tandem. There's also deferment and forbearance. And this, really comes into play with like student loans, for example. When your student loans are in deferment, both of these will forego payments, right? Like you don't have to make payments on them. Deferment, though, you aren't accruing interest while you're not making payments. Forbearance will allow you to not make a payment, but you're going to accrue that interest on it. So you would really need to sit down and discuss, find out what does it cost, for one versus the other, and then determine which option is better for you. And then financial health equals financial wellness. The sooner you feel in control of your finances, the better you will feel. The less you are going to stress about these items. Again, 3 out of 4 people stress over finances. Financial stress, the number one stressor in the workplace. If you're stressed in the workplace, your productivity is not where it could be. So please, sit down, build that budget. And again, it's going to take time to build. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but build the budget, work at it, get it to where it's working for you, to where you are financially healthy. We're not having to rack up debt for items. We are planning for possible unexpected expenses. It's because accruing debt, it takes forever to pay off. Take it from somebody that it took years to do. And then, just some important takeaways I have for y'all before I open it up for any other questions that may come up. Know your financials and spend time with them. Literally, I can't stress this enough. It's, when you're building a budget, you've heard me mention printing out a statement using the highlighter method. I would recommend, if it's your first time sitting down to build the budget, I would print out a couple month statements. Take a look at, you have some dedicated items that are fixed payments. If you rent, your rent is typically fixed every month. Your car payment's fixed every month. Your car insurance is fixed every month. So those are kind of easy items to plan for. The other items, groceries, gas. Gas prices are all over the place now. These are items that it's going to take some time to hone in on because they fluctuate each month. So I'd recommend printing out a couple of statements, going through and taking the highest tallied or highest expense of those months and planning that into your budget, and then adjusting going forward as you see fit. One of the best pieces of financial advice I can give you is pay yourself first. After you have mapped out what you want to do with your money, what brings you joy, what are your goals, pay yourself first, then go pay your bills. This way, it's you want to take care of number one. And paying yourself first will put yourself in the best place financially as well. If you're putting these monies aside for, a vacation, it's a goal. You're going to get hungrier and hungrier. Goals are anchor points. I can't stress it enough. And, if you're putting money aside, like we were talking about earlier with unexpected expenses, when things come up and you have to go to the emergency room, or, if God forbid there's an accident or something, these items are a little easier to swallow when they happen, as opposed to just not having any emergency savings at all. And make a plan to make good financial habits. And this again, I know I feel like a broken record here. This is your budget, planning everything that you possibly can. Does the unexpected happen? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean it has to be a crucial hit to your budget. If you're planning for these items, you can make these good financial habits. You can save money, you can use money, and you're not overdrawing your account or wondering, where did my money go at the end of the month or the end of the week or, pay period before you get paid. So with that wraps up the content I had for everybody. So it's been completely amazing. I'm going to stop sharing screen for now and then open it up for what questions do y'all have?
I see there were some questions that Monica was going to get answered for Janice and Felicia. Okay, I see. Those were about the recordings. Yes,
Okay.
so once our Thursday session concludes, which is in person, then I will hopefully get this recording posted on Friday. So it might take more than a day, Friday or Saturday. Definitely by next week, it will be up and ready.
Awesome.
I know we had some really excellent questions all along the way in chat.
Are free checking or savings accounts available at Safe Credit Union? Excellent question. Yes, we do have accounts that are free. We have some accounts that earn a little more interest as well, but might have minimum balance requirements. What I would recommend doing is going in, sitting down, with one of our, we call them relationship officers. They will take a look at your personal situation and get you set up an account that is free for you, that will also earn you the best possible interest.
Where's the video going to post? It will be on our website. So it will be linked on YouTube, on SPL YouTube, but then it will be linked on the website. And I'm going to put that URL in here again for you. Go to this link. You can see that we already have we have the recording up for last week's session, the healthy living session, and then this one will be posted. Yeah, so much great information. So I think it will definitely be worth a rewatch. One thing that came up for me, Jonathan, when you were talking a little bit about credit cards and budgets, that a lot of credit cards, or something I kind of learned the hard way, they may not have a fee like the first year, and then the second year, I got hit with like a $76, $75 fee, and I hadn't budgeted for that on top of my payment. And so that was something else I wanted to throw out there, is really to read that fine print, because I know there are ways to be savvy with credit cards and earn points and that sort of thing, but it might be that there's no fee for the first year, but then can you get out of the contract at that point? So really have all of that information. So I didn't know if you had more to add to that.
It would just be, like you were saying, reading that fine print and asking that institution about it. It's most places will have to disclose in their disclosures if there is an annual fee. And so you'll just want to pay attention and take a look at that, because part of your credit score, a small part of your credit score, is your length of credit history, which means, they take all of your credit accounts, what's the total years you have, divide by the number of accounts, and then that gives you an average length of history. The longer that length, the more positive it affects your score. It's only like 15% of your score, so it's not much compared to the other items we were speaking about, but it is still an item to consider. If your longest running card has a fee on it, like I can tell you, I personally still have my credit card that I pay a yearly fee on, just because of how long I've had it. But definitely it's something to pay attention to. Ask the institution about it as well, to make sure that you are avoiding any fees that do come up. Let's see. Is state ID required to open an account? I only have school ID. It really is going to depend on if you're going on the account by yourself or if your parents going on the account. I would say bring what you have. They can take a look at it, and there might be other forms of ID they could accept as well and still use your school ID. Are there any accounts that will make your money grow? Yes, there's plenty of different accounts. There's savings accounts, money market accounts, certificates. It's going to depend on a couple of things. One, how much do you have to put in there? Because you want to make sure you avoid any maintenance fees on them. The other is going to be how much liquidity or easy access do you want to have to that? And if you're okay locking it up in like a certificate, for example, how long are you comfortable locking it up for? But there's definitely some avenues out there. So I recommend sitting down, with your institution, having that conversation, and they'll be able to let you know what options are available to you. Let's see. All right.
Do you have any recommendations for how to have more confidence when it comes to doing stuff that requires banking? Because I go to my bank with my dad because I have a tendency to let him do the talking more so than me. So, and that's just because I feel like I don't have enough confidence when it comes to banking stuff and financial. So, do you have like recommendations for how to get more confidence so you can feel like you can talk about better, more be by yourself when it comes to banking stuff?
That's a great question. I would, if you typically go into there with your parents, I would ask them even before you go in, what are you going to ask about and why are you asking it? Just to kind of get their take on it. And then maybe even as you start to go in, maybe you start to say, mom or dad, I want to ask this question today. It just start out small. If you have, a question on, let's just say a money market account, for example. You want an account that earns a little bit better interest rate, but you don't fully understand how it works. Even just going in there and just being like, can you explain to me what the requirements are for this account? And just starting, just with one question. It all starts with one, and then each time you go in, just ask a couple more. Or if you're going in, with your parents, just each time you go in, ask to take the lead just a little bit more each time, and then your parents can chime in, when there's any additional questions or anything that they feel we would need answers for.
Okay, so I think that might be it for our questions. So as we said, we will, one more question. Yes. Okay, they're gonna type it.
All right, perfect.
We'll wait for you.
All right, so what if our income is inconsistent? Art commissions, can't fit in my job schedule yet, it varies. That's a good question. Oh, that, to be honest, that's a tough one. It's a solely commission-based income is very tough to plan for. And so it really, the only I can come up with is it's going to come down to when you're mapping out your budget, you literally have to map out to get as close to every penny as you can. And then what will happen with that is, okay, I have to try and make this much this month just to, meet the bills. And then if I make anything past this goes to, whichever type of account you want it to go to. Is it a just a regular savings? Is it emergency savings? Is it one of your goals? But I really recommend just sitting down, knowing exactly what your budget is, and then knowing exactly how much you have to make each month. And then maybe even you have a separate savings account to where if the income is 0 that month, you have enough in there to cover at least that month's worth of bills. Let's see. Yep. Once I get a job, I want to use a side of 25 twice a month, $600 a year. Yeah. And that's only $25 twice a month. You know, if you're doing, you know, like a side hustle thing, the more you put away, you know, if you do 100 every, you know, twice a month, that's $2,400 a year. So definitely, and that's where sitting down, building out that budget is going to really map out how much you can save. And then, you know, just sit there and watch it grow.
And most everyone in this room is very young. So, you know, if you're within that 16 to 24-year-old range. So if you start saving now, even if it feels like just a little bit, you'll be so ahead of things later on, I think.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I want to do in the future is have like a business. And so going to what you were talking about with regards to business and making a budgeting system of like projected stuff, would it be helpful to put some money stocked away in a money market or certificate now to help later when I'm actually going to start up my business?
It really is going to depend.
Or would it be personal preference?
It's really going to depend how soon you're looking to start up the business and how comfortable you are having that money locked up. You know, money markets do have minimum balance requirements. You know, so if you have, like, I know, say for example, it's $2,000. If you don't have $2,000, you're paying a $12 a month maintenance fee. So it would negate any interest that you would earn for it. Now with a certificate, if you're okay locking that money up for an extended period of time without having access to it, you're going to earn more interest, but you don't have access to it if something comes up. So it becomes personal preference on what are you comfortable stashing away, how much, you know, liquidity or access do you need to those funds. But I would sit down, you know, take a look at it. What do you have that conversation with your institution, because obviously the more interest you can earn now, the better it's going to be for you, you know, when the time comes to start that business.
Thank you so much. This was such a great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us today, Jonathan, and for Debbie
Anytime.
and Emilio from Safe Credit Union for your collaboration. Like we said, the recordings will be available on our website and information for our 4 remaining sessions. And yes, we do have books and finance books available at the library. Once again, thank you for attending Adult 101 Life Skills Routines. Today's program was Money Savvy with Safe Credit Union. This workshop was made possible by funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Please take a moment to fill out the survey linked in the chat so we can continue offering programs like this in the future and learn how to make them even better. And if you're not already signed up for upcoming sessions of this workshop series, please check out our webpage at saclibrary.org/adult101. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. That was great. Appreciate everyone attending.
Thank you for the help, Jonathan.